If I could describe with one word this episode 7 is boring. So boring. Hi. Welcome to That's a Wrap, the channel where I review TV shows, movies, and movie trailers. Today's TV show that I will be reviewing is episode 7 of the Netflix original series Shadow and Bones. If you're not yet caught up with this series or haven't watched episode 7, consider this your spoiler warning. So let's get on to the review. I found this episode so boring as far as just dragged on too much with exposition and dialogue, and I mean, we finally see the steer get killed by Kerrigan, which none of us, I mean, I don't think that was a surprise to anyone that he was ultimately going to kill, because Alina just doesn't have that kind of viciousness in her. It's nothing that it's not something that the show has gone out of its way to say, oh yeah, Alina has a evil streak or a killer streak. No, she's always helped. She's helped Mal since she was a kid. Since they were kids. She has a big heart. So no one, that surprise, I don't know if there was a surprise. It didn't surprise me. I was fully when they were in the snow and they were talking and all that stuff, I was fully expecting that to happen. And on that note, on that scene, I've praised this show a lot for the cinematography and attention to detail. And maybe it was, I don't know where they shot it, whether maybe it was outside or whether it was in a studio. If it was inside a studio in control setting, then there's no excuse for it. But if it was like live outside in the elements, then I'll give it a little bit of pass. But when they're talking, with Alina and Mel are talking, they're like snuggled up and the snow is in their hair, and you feel like some kind of urgency, like, oh wow, they're outside, battling the elements. And then in another shot, within the first two shots, and then the third shot and fourth shot, they're like literally just sitting a kind of apart, no more snuggling, and the snow that was on their head is no longer there. So those attention to details is so annoying to me. And again, I've said this every time I do little nitpicks like that or that I notice. I try not to look at things or not go into a project looking for flaws. And I know that my mind is trained to watch that kind of inconsistencies. And for the average viewer just kind of watching it, it might go unnoticed, but for me it was it disturbed the flow of the emotion. It started off great. They're hugging, you could feel the peril, they're cold, they're being hunted, they're being, or not, I don't think they know they're being hunted. They're actually the hunters in this instance. They're trying to find a steer, but you could kind of feel that they're in peril. They're outside in the elements, they're cold, they can't bring a fire because it might bring attention. But then when they're just separated and the snow's not in their hair no more, and they're having that, it's even the dialogue seemed like they started anew. Like the director producer was like, cut, and I don't like this. Let's do it over again, and cut, and let's do it again. And you could and I don't know if it was or if it wasn't, but I think it was, just because it wasn't organic anymore. And this show if there's one thing that, there's many things, but one thing that I do like is that it's organic for the most part. There is some, again, with all projects, where it feels forced, where it feels like, deliberate, but for the most part it has seemed organic. And like I said earlier, I hate the fact that they tell us a story, and I find this not just with this show, I find it with a lot of shows, that they'll give us a great story, and then we go to the next episode and it's something completely new. Like in the last episode, I talked about how we spent a long time with Nina and Matthias, and And nothing in this one. It's like, okay, whatever. They had that little, and now we only have one episode. So what? They're gonna close that loop off in an episode, or are they hoping that they're gonna get a season 2? The beautiful thing about Game of Thrones that made it Game of Thrones is that if you would have ended, if there was no season 2, if it would have just ended in season 1, it was pretty self-contained. Yes, I know there's books and it continues the story, but you would have been happy with the way it began and ended. You didn't have to have a season 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to feel satisfied, because a story was told. Not the story was told, but a story was told from start to finish. But this feels like they're almost expecting that a season 2 is going to be, a slam dunk. And you can't do that, because we've known for more often than not, you're not going to get the seasons that you want to complete your story. So why not try to condense it and have side characters, not fully develop them, and just stick to a story and conclude it? In this one, again, we'll see in the last episode how they conclude this first season. But again, not just with this show, with many shows, it feels like they're always letting, and even movies, they leave stuff out because we have a banger here. This one's going to hit, and we're definitely going to have a sequel, and then nothing happens. You have to write a self-sustaining story that is going to be held within those parameters of one season. And if you're blessed with having a huge following, it hits off, you home run, and you're granted a season 2 and 3, then you expand the universe. That was one of the brilliant things about a sitcom, How I Met Your Mother, that they only wrote for one season. And if you see the first one, you're like, oh, great, awesome. But it was a smash hit. And then they're like, you know what? We want to do this. We want to do a season 2, and then a season 3, a season 4, and season 5. And everyone that's a fan of the show of How I Met Your Mother knows, look at the last season, the last episode. They never thought about having all these, 7 seasons or 9 seasons, I think actually it was. They weren't planning for any of those seasons past the first one, and that they made it noticeable when even the producers, after the fact that it was done and everyone hated the ending, they said, look, we stuck with the ending we had for season 1 because we didn't think there was going to be a season 2. So we just wanted to stick with it. So we could basically watch season 1, the last episode of the series, and watch those in unison, and it's a complete season because they were just focused on the one. And if you're blessed to tell more stories because it just, like I said, a hit, then you go ahead and indulge yourself. But this episode felt like they were indulging themselves and saying, well, we just gave them a dope ass love story, but whatever. We're gonna put in the episode just before the last one of the series, we're going to do all this dialogue and exposition where you could have cut a ton of stuff in the other episodes, and we could have had some of this dialogue back then. And you could have, incorporated more of the Nina and Matthias story, or followed up or build them a little bit more to give us more, because I'm almost certain that it's not going to be a satisfying conclusion to that story arc. But whatever. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, this episode just felt boring. We found out that, Kurgan, how he, made the fold, and they try to make him a sympathetic character, and it was because of heartbreak. He lost a love, but he's eternal. Even in that, he was almost like, oh, when he was telling his girl, like, oh, you're immortal, you can't live, But like, I'm sorry, you've already painted him as a dick. You can't then unpaint him as a dick. It's the same problem that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier had with the new Cap. They spent almost the whole a series making us hate him. And then in the last episode, oh yeah, but look, he redeemed himself by saving a truck. Get the fuck out of here. You know, you can't give a. I don't know why they do this. You're expecting them to be. You know, oh, we're gonna make him somewhat sympathetic, so then whatever's gonna happen at the end is more impactful. Give me a break. I mean, it's not original. You guys aren't breaking any ground. I mean, I just used one that was literally before this one a month ago or a few weeks ago. That's the same shit that they did. So for have two studios in Hollywood basically give me the same story is kind of disappointing. So I found this episode boring. I mean, again, I'm already in it, right? It's not like I'm gonna stop now with one episode left. But if there was more episodes, like let's say it was like 13 episodes, this would be pretty close for me to turn this series off. I was really turned off because again, I enjoyed the arc of Cass, Jesper, and Ineg, and even that. I mean, I know they're gonna come up with something clever, right? They left us on a little bit of a cliffhanger. They're all the main characters are on a boat. Mal, Kerrigan, Alina, the three amigos right there. Everyone's on that freaking boat, that sand boat. So we know it's gonna be full of like high action, and a lot of stuff is gonna get resolved, I hope. But you couldn't have stretched it out more. It just felt so boring. I found myself yawning in so many parts of this episode that, again, it was a miss for me. So anyways, that's just my thoughts and my opinions. I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. What did you think of this episode? Am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? Or is my criticism just and right on point? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.